Fogwe podcast. I am super excited today for this show. I have some wonderful ladies here with me. The topic is a little bit, it's a difficult one to talk about, but it's a necessary topic that we have to have. So, we're talking today about mental health red flags in relationships. A lot of times we go into relationships with butterflies in our stomach. We're excited. We're looking forward to a wonderful, perfect, 100% perfect relationship. And little do we know that there's some things that, the other person, the partner you're going into a relationship with, has certain things that they're bringing along with them. And sometimes we miss the red flags that come with those relationships. Sometimes we don't, or we see them and we ignore them, or we see them and we don't know what to do with them. And we go along feeling like we have to continue the relationship, or, there's no way out, or there's no help, there's no one to talk to. But today we're going to kind of piece this out and, and talk about it a little bit with two wonderful ladies. So I'm very excited to introduce to you Linda Thun, not Thin. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Sahi. Thanks for having me.
And she'll introduce herself here in a little bit. And I also have Miss Marsha Edwards. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Good to have you both here. So I'll start with you, Linda. I know you didn't want to open it up, but introduce yourself to the audience. Let the viewers know who you are, where you come from, background, family, just anything we need to know about you as a person.
Well, as Sahi mentioned, my name is Linda. I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. However, my background, I am Cambodian. Both my parents were born and raised in Cambodia, and then they moved here to the United States around their late teens, early 20s. That was a little bit difficult, obviously, because they came from, Asia to America, not knowing any English. So, growing up, I had to kind of learn everything on my own. I My parents ended up being, they divorced when I was like 3, and I ended up staying with my dad and my 2 brothers. So I have 2 older brothers, and then there was me. And so, going to elementary school, middle school, high school, undergrad, grad, I had to figure all that out on my own because you can't ask a non-English speaking parent, like,
Mhm.
can you help me with my
My
math
homework.
homework? Can you help me with my writing assignment?
Mhm.
So I had to do all of that on my own. Um, Needless to say, I did have to navigate this whole entire world on my own in terms of um, going through school, how to treat people, and things like that. Because, being a dad, an Asian dad, very typical. He's there for you, right? He knows what, a green star means versus a red star, and A's and B's and C's. So that he knows. But um, other than that, he did the best that he could, kept a roof over our heads, gave us food and things like that. But when it came to parenting, there's a little like lack of that. So I'm very proud of myself because um, in this life, I learned that if I wanted to become something of myself, I had to do it. So it's either I, you know, sink or I swim.
Yeah.
And so I chose to swim. So here I am now. I'm a nurse practitioner.
Yes, you are.
I do,
Amazing.
thank you. I do a multitude of things, aesthetics, hormones, weight loss. And so, yeah, that's my
All right.
background.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. That gives us a perspective of who you are, where you're coming from, and it gives us gives us a sense of your journey, of how far you've come. And so I'm going to turn to Miss Marsha now. You're in the hot seat. So Miss Marsha,
wow.
so she can't say this, but I can. She is my therapist. So I talk to her once a week, every week. So those who are out there and think that they don't need to talk to anybody, they're lying. You need someone.
Wow.
So please introduce yourself to the audience and just let them know who you are.
Wow, that's such an interesting question. I always want to say, what do you want to know? Okay, so I don't usually talk about myself. I will share this much. I actually was born in East Texas. When I was young, my parents moved to the Dallas Fort Worth area, so I have gone to schools here, been here basically all of my life. I get asked a lot, "Where are you from?" And I go, "Here." Anyway,
Same.
and so it is. It's quite a journey. Some of my most memorable times were elementary school. I was bullied a lot, called a lot of
Mhm.
names. It took me a little bit of time to figure out when I looked into the mirror what it was that I saw, how I felt about what it was that I was seeing.
Mhm.
My parents were young and they were of the mindset that we want a better life. And so they worked very hard. At times, my mother worked multiple jobs until they got to a place to where they could feel successful
Mhm.
in what they had achieved.
Mm.
I'm the oldest of two. I had that whole syndrome forever about I have to be mama's big girl and I have to be her helper and I have to do these things. And so the word have and
Yeah.
to were very much a part of my vocabulary. So eventually, after some time, I did end up in college. I finished. I have I have a master's in education, really, which is for school counseling. So I've worked as a school counselor,
Wow.
but I've also was alternatively certified to work in the school system. So
Oh, wow.
I've been a classroom teacher. I've actually been a paraprofessional as well.
Wow.
So my background is very vast because I tend to move in those areas of
Mhm.
what I'm interested in.
Mhm.
Business has always been my first love, which is why my undergraduate is actually in business
Business.
with a minor in international business. So
Wow.
I love working with people, and that's even on the days where I want to run from the room screaming. But for the most part, what happens with us having this experience as humans is very important, and
Mhm.
how we deal with ourselves reflects in our relationships
Yeah.
and how we get along with others. And
Yes.
so it's very important to me,
Mhm.
which is why I keep doing this
Yeah.
work.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, and you're right. You don't talk about yourself, so I'm getting to know you. I mean, in this space, I get an opportunity to get to know you, and I feel blessed to have to listen to you, for a change, because you listen to people all day and you don't get an opportunity to talk about yourself, which most people are not vain and they don't want to talk about themselves. But so our topic today, we're talking about mental health red flags in relationships. um I want to go right into it so that we make this show as short as possible, but where people get some value out of it. So Linda, we talked about this and you came on because you experienced something, and um I feel privileged for you coming on here today and being willing to share this, to bare your soul to the world and tell them what you've experienced, because there might be someone out there going through this and who feels trapped, who feels like there's no help. So just share your story with us. How did that relationship start, and what are those red flags that you noticed in the relationship starting off, if at all you noticed any?
So, my previous relationship, I met him off of Hinge, and he was very sweet, like the sweetest person that you could ever meet. Nothing but smiles and everything, super gentlemanlike. But as the relationship progressed on, there started to be some manipulation type
Mm,
situations where um if we were to fight, he would say things like, "Oh, well, you don't love me." and if you don't love me, then I'm just gonna go and kill myself. Things like that. Like, it eventually got really
Mhm.
bad where he would start breaking things and things like that. So it was, rainbows and butterflies at first, which ironically he has a bachelor's degree in psychology. Um, but things just started to go downhill towards like a year into our relationship, where every time we got, like, he always wanted to fight with me. There was just always something and I got tired of it, to the point where I was so used to him fighting with me that I got numb to it, so that when he would just like yell
So
at me,
verbal
verbal
fighting. Okay.
abuse,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
manipulation, I got numb to it. So I would just like hear it, but not hear it. Um, and then it started getting more physical, like I said, where he would start breaking things or hitting himself in the head or threatening me, like, oh, you don't love me, so I'm just going to go shoot myself and things like that. And he said that multiple times, right?
Mhm.
And normally people who truly are suicidal, from what we learned or from experiences, is people who openly say that they're suicidal normally aren't suicidal. It's more
Mhm.
of like a cry for help, so you don't think they're gonna do it. Um, but so when he would tell me over and over again, well, fine, I'm just going to go kill myself since you don't love me and you want to leave me. When all I really noticed is like, I'm clearly not making you happy. You're clearly not making me happy. So don't let me stop you from finding your happiness and vice versa. But to me, from what I am hearing from him, is I'm his world. If you don't want to be with me, then I don't want to be with anybody else. And so that's when he would threaten, like, okay, well, I'm just going to go shoot myself since you don't love me. And then, of course, I would beg and plead and not think anything of it. I didn't think
Mhm.
it was really going to happen or anything like that. So I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to stay. Like, don't say that's not funny. That's not something to joke about. So here I am. I'm with you. We're going to be together and we'll work through it. Well, one day, it is a very huge topic. Um, One day we were at, his apartment, and again, he started yelling at me. It was over something ridiculous. And, next thing you know, he started hitting his head with like a scale, and he walks out of the bathroom. And I was getting ready, like brushing my teeth, getting ready for bed. And I walk out of the bathroom, and there he was on the ground. He literally did shoot himself.
Did you know he owned a weapon?
I did.
You
He
did.
had a
Okay, so he
safe.
had
He
he
had
had
a
a safe
safe
for it.
full of
Okay.
guns. I didn't know where the key was or the code or anything. Um, So that was a very traumatizing experience for me. I can recall everything from the moment I found him and what I did, what I said to him. And as a nurse, I already knew that he was dead, but I still decided to like check a pulse even though I knew. And I remember everything that I said. Like, I would shake him and I was like, why did you do that?
Mhm.
I told you that I was going to be with you. You didn't have to do that.
Mhm.
And of course, I immediately called the cops as soon as I saw him on the ground, and they showed up. And I just remember crawling when they got there to the wall and begging for
Mhm.
them to let me stay in there into the room because I was in a state of shock and I couldn't believe it. Um, and after that,
Put a pin on it right there. Just hold on right there. I'll come back to after, all of that. Let's get a professional take on this.
yes,
Whew, that's a lot. But Miss Marsha, speak to people who are in a relationship and they get warnings like that. What are you to do with that? Because you could, I mean, from what she's saying, she sincerely, tried to do the best she could to calm things down. I'm gonna stay and all that, but it's a catch 22.
It really is, and it is. It's a very difficult situation to be in. And as I'm listening to you, you noticed the flags.
Mhm.
His speech, what he was talking about. If you don't do, then I'm going to.
Mhm.
You are my whole world.
Mhm.
Why would I be your whole world? You know,
Mhm.
it's like those things that cause you to feel uncomfortable, or all
Okay.
those things that the things that cause you to feel uncomfortable, those are really the flags. What is my gut saying to me? This is not an okay place for me. And if you know someone who threatens to hurt themselves if you do not do something, you mentioned the word manipulation, and that
Mhm.
is manipulation.
Mhm.
It is about me being able to control the situation by getting you to do what it is that I need to have done without any real concern about what it's like for you. It's a very scary situation
Mhm.
to be in, and how will you know what to do today? Because today may be a great day. We'll go for a walk in the park. We'll enjoy ourselves. We'll laugh, and then we'll get back, and it's time for bed. And
And
he
it's a
will
repetitive cycle.
Mhm.
exactly.
Mhm.
I
You're
do
stuck.
I
You're
do
stuck
have
like a hamster.
regrets.
Like a hamster.
It
You're
is
going
very
around.
much. It is
Yeah.
very much that way.
Yeah.
Um,
I do have regrets. I know there are a few things that I learned. I I'm a very private person when it
mhm.
comes to relationships. So I knew we were having these problems and I knew I was being manipulated, but I didn't take the time to tell
That was my
any.
biggest question. Who did you tell?
That's
Mhm.
the thing is I didn't tell anybody. I'm so
Isolation
private,
is a
so I
huge
kept
red
it to
flag.
myself.
Mhm.
Um, when in reality, I should have told either my family members or his family members
Absolutely.
so that because I do feel guilty. I feel all of this could have been prevented had I spoken up versus keeping it as in it's our
Mhm.
problem. Maybe we can
Mhm.
figure it out. And that's what I thought. Okay, maybe we can
Mhm.
figure this out because we would talk through it, be
Mhm.
better. But like you said, it'd be a cycle. So after, the many cycles, I tell myself this every day till this day, I should have involved a family member,
Mhm.
whether it's mine or his. And I think that the outcome might have been different.
Mhm.
It might have been, but chances are, with what you shared and what
Miss
you
Marsha, pull it that way.
okay, but chances are with what you shared, it might not have actually been different. The outcome might not have been different. The only difference might have been that it would have been someone else, because there sounds like there was a lot of impulsivity going on, and there
Hmm.
was a lot of issues within himself and how he viewed himself within the world. And so that part makes a huge difference as well. And that's one of those things that when we are with someone, we don't have control over. We only have control over our own actions, our own behaviors, how
Hmm.
we think and feel about things, which is why it's so important to be aware of when we feel uncomfortable in a situation. And I will
Hmm.
say, from the things that you've shared, it's like you did what you knew to do in those situations because you cared enough about him to not want anything to happen to him.
Hmm.
It seems that there was a place in there, though, where you stopped thinking about your own self and
Hmm.
your own safety and what was important for you. And anytime that we start to think about someone else's safety, health, well being more than we are our own, we don't consider what is happening to us in this situation with this person, then it puts us in a situation of not paying attention to a flag. That's a very huge flag.
Mhm.
When we start to value more
Mhm.
of what someone else is doing or what they have to say than the other person, it makes a huge
Yeah.
difference. And that's one of the huge ones. The other is, are we listening to what someone
Mhm.
is saying?
Yeah.
If someone is saying to me, I want to kill myself if you don't, I'm thinking, okay, so if I don't do this thing, then you're going to do that thing, because for every action, there is a
There's a
reaction,
reaction.
right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
since we know this to be so, then it is a good idea to talk to
Mhm.
someone else
Yeah.
and ask them, especially family members, because sometimes their family members know things that they are not ready
Yeah,
to
and
talk
some people
about.
they'll be protective of their
Oh,
family member, like
absolutely.
especially if you have a child, you have a son who you already know
Mhm.
they may be coming up as a young man. They already showed signs of mental health, and
Absolutely.
you're protecting them. You want them out of love to be in a relationship,
Mhm.
and you want to protect them. You might not reveal some of those things. Some might, if you're honest, if you're honest parents, you might reveal it with some caution, like like, hey, be cautious, have precaution here
Mhm.
and there, and to protect that person, but not, but it it still helps to talk about it.
It
Yeah,
does.
and I get being private, and and wanting, because for the most part relationships, you want to be private. You want it to be between the two of you until it gets to
Mhm.
the point where you need that third party.
Mhm.
Because we usually, one of the advice that they give you at the wedding day is keep third parties out of your marriage, or in your case it wasn't marriage but it was a relationship,
Mhm.
but they tell you to keep them out of your relationship. So probably that played in your head, like, this is between us, I don't need to
Mhm.
bring any outsider into it. But we still, lesson learned, right?
Mhm.
We have, I want you to talk to people who are still struggling with mental health,
Mhm.
who have that stigma, and they don't want people to know that, oh, either I'm dealing with someone with mental health, and that's not your case.
Mhm.
Either I'm dealing with someone with mental health, or someone who has mental health and doesn't want people to know about it. So, because in our communities, we end up with situations like that,
Mhm.
where they get so bad that it ends up either somebody losing their life, or it gets so bad that you end up being crippled and you're in the hospital, in and out of the hospital, because you can't help it.
Absolutely.
Please speak to people like that to give them some reassurance.
See, with him is when it came to being around friends and family, he you would have never guessed he
So
was depressed.
he masked
He
it.
was so good at hiding it. Everybody who met him could only see nothing but pure joy and happiness, and like the sweetest person who always had a smile on his face, who always wanted to put others first.
Mhm.
He made everyone laugh, he made everyone feel loved,
Mhm.
and there was no signs of depression when it came to, being around everyone else.
Mhm.
I think it was just kept in
Yeah.
between when it was just one on one.
Yeah.
And that was where, when it did happen, it was a shock to everyone, including his friends and family,
Mhm.
because that's not
Yeah.
the person they knew. The
Mhm.
person that they knew was
Sweet
this like
person. Yeah. Mhm.
glowy, outgoing person.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I think that's, to me, a defense mechanism for him.
I
Is
agree. And I think that part of it is that when we know people, really know people, we know that we're not always glowy. We know that that's not our
Mhm.
lives.
Yeah.
And so when we have someone who is, again, pushing what they can do for others, but not allowing others to do for them, because that is a way to keep people at bay. If I present myself this way
Mhm.
to you, this is what you see, then you don't have to see my scars. You
Mhm.
don't have to see my pain. But
Mhm.
most of the time, persons who wrap their lives around someone else's life are in a lot of pain, but they may not be able to put that into
Yeah.
words. And so when we deal with one another, it's important for us to use our whole selves to hear and to pay attention to what's going on around us.
Mhm.
If someone is constantly about you, never about you doing for them, or never about them doing for themselves, if they don't have friends outside of the relationship, if they are not comfortable talking about the stuff that bugs them, the things that make them feel uncomfortable,
Mhm.
then those are flags that you want to pay attention to, especially if you are a person who shares those things. If you are hurt or your feelings get hurt about something and you're okay with sharing that, that's a good thing, because it gives you have an outlet to be able
Mhm.
to listen to what it is you're
Yeah.
saying to others, but also to look at others' reactions and to hear what someone else might have to say in
Mhm.
relation to what you just shared with them.
Another
If what
perspective.
you put out there,
Mhm.
no one talks about it, they change the subject. See, that's another flag. You want to understand why a person might not be willing to
Mhm.
talk to you about certain things. Those are those are the ones that come the most, but those are the ones that in our relationships we tend to want to work at the most.
Mhm.
Okay, you didn't hear me, you didn't understand. Okay, let me say it a different way.
Mhm.
Okay, no, 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 no. We don't have to go around people. It can just be us. We can just have a night together. We can just spend time by ourselves.
To cut off
Um,
from others.
absolutely. And then one day you look up and it's just
Yeah.
like, wow, when is the last time I talked to my family?
Yeah.
When is the last time we were invited to spend time with others? It's like we spend a lot of time here alone.
Mhm.
So those are small things and they happen within our day to day. Sometimes when we're busy with work or other things, if we're able to work, because
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard to keep a job when you have someone who is especially clingy. They call a
Yeah.
lot. They show up unannounced.
Mhm.
They want to know 5 minutes ago you were supposed to be here,
Mhm.
but you weren't here. So where were you for that 5 minutes?
Mhm.
Who are you talking to? What were you doing? Those kinds of things. When I think about it, it's like, no, 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 no. I was just working.
Yeah.
My stomach was upset. I was in the bathroom longer, or this, that, or the other. So we do those things to settle the discomfort that we're feeling in that situation.
Yeah. And there was a statistic that was out there about during the COVID-19 where mental health issues got worse
Mhm.
because people were cooped up at home, those who had
Absolutely.
to work from home, and it got worse. And people are probably still suffering the remnants of that.
Absolutely.
So again, please reassure people who are who still have a stigma for mental health. Like it's okay. Like give them some
It
reassurance.
it really is
Yeah.
okay, and I think that what we don't always know what to expect when we see a therapist, and we are people, so
Mhm.
our personalities, how we deal with um, people, and how we listen to them, that sort of thing, differs a little bit from
Mhm.
person to person. But it is worth the effort to talk to someone to get
Mhm.
those things outside of you. And of course, when it comes to culture, there can be a lot of stigmas,
Yeah.
whether it is the African American community or someone from the Asian community and such,
Mhm.
or there's a lot of thought about if you need to talk to someone that you're really crazy and that we don't want to be a part of that. So that can be an isolating situation for
Mhm.
some people. But I encourage you there if you don't want to, see someone in an office, you don't want people to know. There are a lot of
Mhm.
online
Yep.
programs that can be beneficial, and you don't always have to be on video. Sometimes you can be on phone, depending upon the platform,
Mhm.
and that might be a way to help you be more comfortable
Yeah.
with talking to someone. And then, of course, there are therapists where you can go into their office if you prefer to be in a setting where you can just sit and talk
Yeah.
to someone one on
Mhm.
one. And if you feel
Yeah.
that you're not ready for one on one and you
Mhm.
would like to kind of be in the company of others, there are groups out there as well.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of ways to start the conversation, and you
Yeah.
can start where you're comfortable
Mhm.
and work your way to what helps you the
Yeah.
most, because what you think and how you feel, those those things are real,
Yeah.
and it's important for those to be valued, because that's where we can start, that's where we
Mhm.
can look at where you would like to go
Yeah.
as your next step. It doesn't make
Mhm.
you crazy to want to talk to someone so that you don't keep having these thoughts rattle around in your
Yeah.
head. And usually, most of us can benefit from that, unless there's something organic going on and
Mhm.
we have to look at medications and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. But for the most part, a lot of times, just being able to talk about it
Mhm.
helps us feel a lot better.
Yeah.
I know the first time I went, it helped me feel a lot better.
And to know that this is the first time I've seen her in person. We've been talking on the phone. Never saw her
We
face.
actually
I only
have.
saw her picture. So I know you have to go. You have a client that's waiting. But
Mhm.
before you go, shout out your contact information. And then Linda and I will continue the conversation here. But shout out your contact information, your private practice, how people can reach you if they need to. Just shout it out to us.
Okay. Um, the best two ways would be either via email. The email is mlynne counseling at gmail.com. Or you can leave me a message at 214-604-7895.
Okay. We'll drop it in the comments later too so people can reach out. But Miss Marsha, thank you so much. I know that you have to run. This conversation could continue on because we need a lot more perspective from you, but we want to be mindful of your time and not
Thank
keep
you.
you all day.
I
And we
appreciate
just
that.
needed your professional, input on this situation because this is a very sensitive topic,
It
and
is.
really do appreciate you coming today. But I'll catch up with you.
All right. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And it was a
Yes.
pleasure to
Yeah.
meet you.
Yes, I love listening to you. We needed a professional in this type of stuff.
All righty.
All right. So we're continuing the conversation here with Linda. Linda just shared her story with us. Brave woman. You know, to tell us what you went through. This was 2023, correct, or was it 2022?
2023.
Yeah, so just last year. And so I told you to put a pin on after, all of you found out he had shot himself, and give us a little insight to how you were after that. How are you sitting here? How are you even
I
you
asked
went back,
myself
I mean,
that
you
the
went
same
to school,
question.
you went to nurse practitioner school. Was it after that? Or no, you were
No,
in nurse practitioner school.
I was already working as an
Yeah.
NP.
Mm-hmm.
So after all of that happened, it happened around April 2nd, and I started a new NP job
Mm-hmm.
April 8th that I could not get out of. So it happened, and I had no choice again because I don't, I really come from humble beginnings where, we didn't grow up with a lot of, money and resources. So I needed to take this job. So after it happened, I didn't get a chance to grieve,
Mm-hmm.
and then I immediately started a new job, and that was really stressful for me because I was still in shock and
Mm-hmm.
still couldn't believe what had just
Yeah.
happened, and so I went from, weighing, like, 110 to weighing, like, 80 pounds within 3 days of it happening, and then 2 months later, my all of my hair started falling out where I was literally bald everywhere. It's barely starting to grow back. You can see like I have little baby
Yeah.
hair sticking up. But you know, I had to go on into the world to, act as if nothing happened because I am a person where again, I'm private, so I leave things at the door. When I come into work, it's different. No one
Mm-hmm.
will know. Um, so it was a hard transition. Um, I lost a lot of weight. All my hair started falling out, and I'm over here trying to, get through this new job, and it was a very difficult time for me. Um I felt like no one could really truly understand what
Mm-hmm.
I went through unless they've been through it
Yeah.
themselves. Like
Mm-hmm.
what person, like you really have to be mentally strong
Yeah.
to witness such a horrible,
Mm-hmm.
traumatic
Yeah.
scene and then to continue on living your life just because you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Because life's hard. You
Yeah.
can't just stop what you're doing, especially when you need to continue to pay for food and bills
Yeah.
and
Did you
living.
speak to anyone? Did you get a therapist then? Did you go through counseling?
I ended up started, I did do therapy. Um, and that helped a little bit. I did something called EMDR, and it's like where your eyes focus on these like lights, and it kind of just makes you go into like a little trance where
Mm-hmm.
the therapist asks you some questions and she tries to put you in another place so that you can try to like change your thoughts.
Yeah.
Like instead of being it's your fault when it's not, we're going to flip it around.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's take you out of that box where you're constantly having those flashbacks of you in that room with him, of how you
Mm-hmm.
found him. Um,
Yeah.
so I did do therapy for a
Okay.
while.
That's awesome. And sometimes it could be a combination of things, hybrid. It could be a little bit of therapy here. It could be a little bit of support, having a good support
Support
system.
system.
Like, I have friends, like you have those really close friends that when I get off the phone with them, I'm just cracking up, I'm laughing,
Mhm.
and it helps. That's some kind of therapy too. This podcast is therapy. You know
Mhm.
how my eyes light up when I talk about this,
Mhm.
things like that, just finding that one thing. And I'm speaking to people out there who are going through things like this, and they don't think there's a way out. We have to find those things that we're good at, the positive things around us. Whether it's, some people use their job, like you went to your job, you left everything at the door, you went in, but when you left, you picked it up at the door and went back home.
Mhm. And then
So
it's in your head
yeah,
again.
so as long as we're letting it out and we're not keeping it in, it's very important. And so this topic was it's important because even you and I, as nurse practitioners, when we see patients, we're seeing them for medical stuff, but there are people who come with mental health stuff too. So those are things that we have to remember to even, when we're counseling our patients about that, to look at them as a whole, your body, your mind, your spirit. All of those have to talk to each other. Everything, you don't only want to look good on the outside when the inside is rotting.
Exactly.
So those are things that we have to think about. Any final thoughts that you have that you want to share? Any question I didn't ask you that maybe was something you were burning to share with our viewers about this situation? Just, yeah, anything you can think of final thoughts.
I just think that if anybody is in a similar situation, like the one that I was in, to not make the same mistakes that I did. I know that sometimes people want to be private in their relationships because they don't want to add other parties in and hear different
Hmm.
opinions. But when it's something so serious as being gaslighted, manipulated, threatened with suicidal
Hmm.
things, I think it really is important to get someone involved because I truly believe the situation could have turned out a different
Yeah.
way where there didn't need to be a lost
Yeah.
life.
Hmm.
Um, and I truly believe that no one should be afraid
Yeah.
to ask for
Mhm.
help.
Yes.
There is nothing wrong. There's always this stigma behind, oh, you have depression, oh, you have anxiety, oh, and you're going to think that people are going to think differently of
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's the case nowadays. I think, like you said, since COVID, mental health has become a real thing. And
Mhm.
now people are more aware of it
Yes.
now.
Mhm.
And I just don't think that anybody should be put in the same situation that I was in. I truly believe if you can find someone to help you, whether it's your your boyfriend's side where you can talk to their family so that
Mhm.
they can help him, or if you need help, you can talk to your
Mhm.
family. I really think
You'll
that's the
make a
way to
difference.
go
Mhm.
before you end up being too late.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I feel a little bit guilty knowing that I did not open my mouth sooner.
But you have to release yourself of that guilt too. That's because that's a lot of burden to carry. And to think how far you've come. You're in a new relationship, you're engaged.
I
You
know. Thank you.
newly engaged. Congratulations. I need to see the ring after this. We have to weigh the ring. Congratulations for that, because not many people would have gone into a new relationship, but you are doing well. Your eyes light up when
Mm,
you talk about him all the time, and
mhm.
I'm praying that this goes in the right direction. You guys, you have a long marriage ahead of you once you get married and all that. So congratulations. And once again, I want to really appreciate you for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
It was brave and you did it and you talked through your story and you shared it, and you might save one or two lives out there, people who, who probably was struggling with mental health issues and probably took it as a stigma, but now they heard it from a professional and they heard your life story. So once again, thank you. And for all the viewers out there, thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate y'all. If you're able to share the video, go ahead and share. You don't know who you're going to help. Just share and subscribe so that when we go live every Wednesday, you get a notification and watch our show. Until next time, thank you for watching the Saaghe Fogwe podcast.